Welcome to this PrimePark tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can use CSS Grids to better style your website. This will make it more responsive to any device that it's on. At the moment, I've got a very basic HTML skeleton here, and I've got a web page here, which is what I've just saved over on this side. To get started, I'm going to create a section in my body. Think of a section as a tag very similar to a div. I'm going to give it an ID or a name. I'm going to call it wrapper. The reason I'm calling it wrapper is because this section ID or this section tag is going to wrap around everything inside my website. Let's go to the next part. I'm going to create a header. Let's call this header 1, and I'll write example as a header. I'm then going to create a div. Let's give it an ID, call it box 1. And let's write box 1 in it so we can see where it is on the web page. I'll copy this 4 times. If I save my web page and I refresh my web page, you can see that we've got everything over here. I might change the numbers here so we can differentiate between them. There we go. Now, in order to style this, I want the example header to be across the entire page. I want box 1 over here, box 2 over here, box 3 over here, and box 4 over here. However, using normal traditional styling will be very complicated for that. So we can use CSS Grids to help us. Let's start by styling the wrapper. Remember, when we're styling an ID, we use a hashtag to reference it. Let's call this wrapper. I'm going to give the wrapper a width of 100 VW. 100 VW means that it's going to be 100% of the size of my window. Let's also give it a height of 100 VH. The VH stands for the entire height of the web page. Think of it like a percentage. I'm also going to change the display. If you remember in a previous tutorial, I told you that displays, or everything, is usually displayed as a block. We could change that to inline block to display next to each other. However, I'm going to change the display to be a grid. If I save this, I refresh my web page, you can see things have changed slightly. It's automatically put rows across my entire web page at 100% of the height. Let's also style the boxes. I'll put box 1 over here, and we're going to give this one a background color of red. Let's copy and paste this, and let's do a different background color for each box. I'll give the second one a background color of blue, the third one a background color of green, and the fourth one a background color of yellow. Let's save this and have a look at it. There we go. I'm also going to style my header as well, which I called header 1. Let's give it a background color, and we'll give it a background color of violet, or blue violet. There we go. So you can see there's a bit of spacing between them, and that's fine. But each one has the length of the web page because of the 100 view width over here, and the height is actually split up evenly between all the boxes, and that's because of 100 VH over here. Let's style this a little bit more. I'm going to introduce you to some unique commands that you can use with display grid. One of them is called grid template columns. What this does is it lets us specify how many columns we want to have across the web page, and then it will evenly distribute them across the boxes. I can write 2 sizes over here because I want to have 1 column here and 1 column here, and I want each of them to be 50% of the web page. This works from left to right. So the first column number would be here, and then the second column number would be here, and if you had more columns, the third and fourth one would be here, and so on. Let's give the first column a width of 50%, and let's give the second column a width of 50% as well. Let's now create a new one. This one we'll call grid template rows, and it follows the same principle, but instead of going across the columns, we're going on the rows. In this case, I want the first one to be 33%, the second row to be 33%, and the third row to be 33%. This will make more sense as we go along. Let's put 33%, 33%, 33%. So I'm going to have 2 columns that are 50% and 3 rows that are going to be 33% each. Lastly, I'm going to use this command called grid template areas, which looks a little bit like this. It's a bit of a weird command, this one, because I am putting a spacing here and speech marks over here with a semicolon underneath. This is our template for the website. This shows what section of the website we want everything to go in. Let's give it some titles, and you can call this whatever you want. I'm going to try and keep it accurate. So let's say I want a header across my 2 columns like this. So that's going to be 50% here and 50% here. Then underneath that, I'm going to have box 1 and box 2. And underneath that, I'm going to have box 3 and then box 4. You can see this sort of matches how I want the web page to look. The header should go across the entire web page, which if it's 50% and 50%, the header will go 100% of the width, and then box 1, 2, 3, and 4 underneath it. Now, before I can run my web page, I need to actually assign these names to my divs and header, which thankfully I created over here. Let's go in header 1, and let's give it the grid area header. You see that I don't put this in speech marks. Remember that. So now what will happen is my header will have a width of 100% because it's across both spaces. Let's add the grid areas for everything else. Box 1 will have a grid area of box 1. Box 2 will have a grid area of box 2. Box 3 will have a grid area of box 3. And lastly, box 4 will have a grid area of box 4. There we go. Each of them now have one of these areas assigned to them. Let's save this and have a look at how it turned out. As you can see, we have the header spanning across both rows, both columns, and then box 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all here in the middle. This makes it really useful to style your websites. I can also modify different things inside here. For example, if I want box 1 to be in box 4, my traditional way of coding that I've shown you before is that I have to change all the styling here to move all these around and move the tags so that they're underneath each other like this. However, thanks to CSS Grids, I don't have to do any of that. If I want box 1 to be where box 4 is and box 4 to be where box 1 is, all I have to do is find where my box 1 is and change this one to box 4 and change box 4 to box 1. If I save this and I refresh my web page, you can see they swap places. If I want box 2 to be my new header and my header to be in box 2, I can do that as well. I can change header to box 2 and change box 2 to be the new header. If I save this and I refresh it, you can see it matches alright. Sometimes there'll be a bit of spacing. This is because this is a header tag and not a div tag, so it reacts slightly differently. If I want to fix that, I could try to fix it by putting a height of 100% to my header. However, you'll have to mess around with the styling to get it just right. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you have found it helpful.